mean, it looked like it, but.
Hello there.
Oh.
Hi! I love you!
Glad you guys came.
Yes.
It's my first time in Alaska. So you guys got to give me a few tips, things that I should go check out if I can, that's near. Versus 2? Alright.
Yeah.
Tell me later, right now.
Right now, no. I don't do that.
Or understand what you're saying. So yeah, welcome to the panel. I'm Johnny Yong Bosch. If you don't know who I am, I was Adam in Power Rangers.
Yeah!
Black Ranger and back and forth there. Then I got into voiceover and multiple different characters and shows. Trigun was my first one. Back. Shows, Rain, Lelouch, Gogias, Isai, and da-da-da. Who am I forgetting? Ichigo and Bleach. So quite a few different things. I've done some games and stuff. There's a few things that are coming out. Some things I can't talk about yet. Most things I can't talk about, actually.
Cool.
Unless
Good.
we
Good.
can
You can't talk about it.
But yeah, this is open Q&A, so if you guys have any questions, I will answer them the best I can, and I can also tell stories that I'm sure you guys have heard some of my embarrassing stories. But anyway, yeah, so if you have questions, raise your hand, and I'll call on you, and we'll go from there. What's your question? Yeah.
It's like being a Black Power Ranger.
I'm sorry? What about the Power Ranger movies? You've seen them? Yes. Not the first series of Power Rangers? No, but you've seen the movies. Is that your question? It's a statement. Yeah, well, cool. No, I mean, I worked on the first 2 movies. The first movie was shot in Australia, which was a pretty cool experience. The second movie was shot in California mostly, but then I also got to go to Maui to do some stuff. A lot of things were cut out of that film, both films actually, in the script as well. But other questions? Yes?
I was wondering if you could talk about when they called you up to do DMC5 and how you actually got involved in the franchise as a whole.
Well, I worked on DMC4. That was the first time I worked on the franchise. I actually did audition for DMC3 for Dante. But it was at Ruben Lincoln is Dante, does the mocap and the voice. And it was at his studio that they were holding the auditions. And you know, I went in auditioned, but then he got the part as Dante. And actually Dan Southworth auditioned as well, but you know, he ended up being Virgil. And so yeah, 4 came around and I went into audition and I booked the role for Nero in DMC4. I got to go to Japan to do motion capture and of course the voice as well. And DMC5, I thought wasn't even going to happen because they basically did a reboot, you know? I think Ninja Theory, right? Like they did their own DMC. Right, well, I have to explain. So, like, I thought that it wasn't going to happen. I thought, okay, I guess that's it. And so, I was working on something else in Japan with another mocap thing with Ruben. And it was actually some slot machines. And so we were in our mocap suits, and I took a picture of both of us and I posted it online, and everybody thought it was DMC5. And Capcom told me to take it down, and I was like, oh, as soon as I take it down, I'm going to definitely think it's DMC5. And I took it down, and that picture went viral. But then that was the moment where I was like, why would they care about it if they weren't thinking about maybe doing DMC5? They released that special edition of DMC4, I think to be like, you guys still like this version? And then, yeah, it was a couple years ago. I had to go in an audition. We all had to go in an audition for our parts. And then, yeah, then we got to go to Japan and do the mocap and all that stuff. It was a good time. If you like 3 and 4, I think you're really going to like 5. It answers a lot of questions. It gets more into the story. for all the characters, and it was a good time. If you like the series, I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. Yes?
I have a question about you playing TK in Digimon Tri.
Yeah.
I've seen some of your interviews, but I don't know exactly how you got into it, and I just like more details on that.
How I got into
Yeah,
Digimon?
because it just blew everybody away as soon as you got cast as TK.
Is that a good or bad thing?
It was very good.
Okay. Well, okay. So I didn't know a lot about Digimon, other than this, like I had worked on Fusion, I think, and I've done like various different really small tiny things here
Yeah.
and there. And so I didn't really know the franchise or the story or any of the characters in the past, because it was, obviously I was older when it came out. And so when I got the audition, it was for all the characters. So all the characters were in the audition that I received in the email. And I didn't know that these were characters from another series, continuing. And so I just auditioned for all the characters, and TK was the one that I was cast as. And then later, I found out, I think I got an email, I think that was to a few actors that said, do not talk about working on Digimon, because we can't say anything about anything. And I never did. Because of that reason, someone got in trouble, basically. And so I got this email, and then I found out, and so then I started to look it up, like what was it all about? And it was because other characters other people were saying that they're coming back as a character, and I was like, wait a second, what? And that's why I found out that these were roles that other people had. And I took somebody else's part,
That's
Wow.
And I was like, holy cow. And then, so then I had to do some research. And I did figure it out, a little earlier, but I didn't really think much of it. But then I realized that there were people coming to play their roles again, and so I had to go in and look at all the voices that were TK before. He was much younger then, and he didn't really have that much story to his character.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot that I really needed to focus on. It wasn't like a crazy list for a certain way of talking. So I really still had freedom to get older. So I really got to just kind of focus on the story and fit into that, mode. And then it was a little scary though, finding out that, I'm the new guy.
Yeah.
So it's a little more stressful that way. But it was a great series. TK is a great character to play. It's fun.
Yeah.
Infections was an awesome, series or episode for me.
I just saw the newest episode yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in theaters, and you were phenomenal. It was great.
Hey, it was a lot of fun. Yes.
I mean, it has plot holes, but what doesn't have plot holes? So.
I actually had auditioned for a couple times here and there. Well, not game, actually, for, what's it called? What's the series you're talking about? Fire. No, is it Fire Emblem? Oh, sorry, no, I'm sorry. I did not audition for that. Sorry, I get confused whenever it makes me think of, I can't even think of it right now. No. I don't even know the name of it, but it had fire in it. So no, that I did not audition for. But usually auditions, even most of them come from my agent. But occasionally producers or whoever will send auditions to me. Sorry. I thought you were talking about something else. Yes.
I know you probably get this question a lot, but so I'll ask the next one. What's the most difficult role you ever took?
Most awkward, most difficult? That would be for a game that I don't know the name of. I posted a video talking about this actually. It's Goblin number 13. So I basically got a phone call to come in and to see if I was available the next day to work on a video game. And I was. I was like, all right, cool. And so I go in, and then director producer said, hey, the sides are over there for you. You go look at your character. and he's playing Goblin number 13. So I go over there and I start flipping through. I'm looking at the character Goblin number 13, miscellaneous, and it's just all vowels, like O's, O-E, E-I-I-A. I'm like, it's all like, oh, what is this? He's like, oh, it's like, goblin noises. I started to panic because I've never done any kind of like animal or monster noises. I'm usually just my regular voice, maybe a kid voice or something. Never did any kind of character or anything. And so I'm starting to freak out. I'm like, I don't know any goblins. What do goblins sound like? It's like, like growling and fighting monster goblin noises. I'm like, what? And then I for whatever reason, I thought back when I was a kid, I had this guinea pig that I would talk to. And I would go, and so I looked at him, I'm like, yeah, do that.
Do that.
4 hours, I was just charging and falling off cliffs and being electrocuted or whatever in this voice. And so after 4 hours of screaming, I couldn't talk. And so I was like, thanks for the session. The next day I had like this series I was supposed to work on and did like a young kid voice, but I couldn't do it because I had no voice, and I got recast for an entire series. So I lost a decent job because of this game that I don't know the name of. It's like super secret. A lot of times those things are secret, the games, and so they'll only say like Namco game or whatever, and so I don't know the name of the game. So that would have been the most difficult, I guess, for me. But if you guys are out playing the game and you hear, that's me. Dream role? I don't know. Dream role. One that does not end. One that has a really cool story and great characters that everybody loves. Maybe an original story, would be kind of cool. It's always fun to play characters that have more emotional baggage or places to go than just being some kid that controls a mech or something, Not that those can't be good, but there's just so many of them. Yeah. Personal favorite anime? Just not that I've been in general. And that's a good question. Let's see, Akira is definitely one of the first ones for me. I think that was the first one. No, that was one of the first ones that I knew sort of the name anime. That's where I kind of heard it. I think I saw it in a magazine or something. Actually, Japanime is what they call it, I think. Or Japanimation, right? Yeah. It's so racist back then. What else? Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust. Jinro. Yeah, these are older. You guys are like, what? Let's see. Gosh, it's been a long time since I'm from the time. Do you guys remember? Any of you guys remember Blockbuster?
Yes!
You guys had Suncoast out here.
R.I.P.
You had to go hunt down your DVDs.
Yes.
Well, they didn't have DVDs. You had to go hunt down your VHSs.
Yes.
And
R.I.P.
all you-
Blockbuster, basically. R.I.P.
I miss Blockbuster.
Do you
It was a
remember
nice
that
place.
Blockbuster?
Just closed! It just closed!
I go there all the time.
Surviving Blockbuster.
Second!
There's another one?
Yes.
Is it out here too?
No. Low 48. Blockbuster is literally dying as we speak.
Blockbuster.
They made a Captain Marvel movie.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Russell Crowe's Scott.
This is Gladiator Jock.
Really? Yes.
You're like, good.
Yep.
You know, You know, do you know? I'm like, that's like everything here.
Right. So she's talking about this NBC show called Reverie, and I know a lot of stunt guys. A lot of the guys basically from Power Rangers that were like either in the monster suits or one of the Power Rangers or Blue Ranger or whatever. And so a lot of those guys are now doing other projects, and they've kind of moved on, and they're doing a lot of stunt choreography or bigger things. They're working on everything, really. Transformers, all that stuff. And so occasionally, some of the guys will give me a call and say, hey, usually if it's a person that's going to be doing some kind of action and that has dialogue, you know, so if it's like, because they don't usually throw a stuntman, like they don't want to throw a stuntman into an acting part, you know, they want to be able to throw someone who can act and do stunts in that kind of a role. And so a friend of mine referred me to, well, both a friend of mine, but they were looking for someone because there's some talking in there. And yeah, that's all it was. So it was really just kind of me just going like, sure, I'll do it. And so, you know, and I knew that the other people I was there with, was just really just a bunch of people that I knew, you know, stunt guys and stuff that I, you know from so many years. But occasionally, you might see me, I was in True Blood as well. But yeah, occasionally I'm like in there somewhere. Usually, because the stunt guy has to say some dialogue and give me that.
I don't, but
but it's always fun.
who cares what you think?
Right out there. But most people don't see it, and I don't really post too much about it or announce it or anything because it's, you know, it's whatever. But it's funny stuff. Sometimes, like I studied jujitsu, and I walk in, and then like half the people in there were like, "Hey, we saw you on the show last night." Yes. I'm sorry, what was that? Oh, well, it was disappointing for sure. It was disappointing that it ended, Ichigo and Bleach, it was just it's definitely one of my favorite series to work on, one of my favorite characters to work on. So it was a little bittersweet, you know, for sure. Like I was happy to kind of like look at other things and start working on a bunch of other projects, but at the same time it was like, oh man, I really liked that one. It was one that was just fun for me to play. And there's a lot more freedom in that character for me because they really kind of trusted us with their characters at that point. So it's a bit of a bummer. But with that new live action, you know, there's potential. I mean, it's actually really good. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty decent for an animated, you know, adapted into live action. Usually they're terrible. This one's surprisingly not that bad. Actually, the action director, Yuji Shimomura, who does Devil May Cry 3, 4, and 5, actually did all the action in the Bleach movie. So it's pretty good. And yeah. But I know that they released it on Netflix already without English, without an English dub. Not saying that there won't be one.
Well, not the roller one, but
Not saying that I worked on one. That's going to be out in a few weeks, but you should check it out. Yes. When working on Bleach, what was the hardest day? There weren't really too many hard days, you know. I think the only time that it was maybe hard would be if I was Ichigo fighting and screaming, then Hollow Ichigo fighting and screaming, and then full Hollow Ichigo, you know, screaming. And so doing all of that in like, you know, hour, 4 hours, or whatever, it starts to wear on your voice. Yeah, those would be the only times, but I usually have a lot of fun with that. Again, like I said, there's a lot of freedom in there. So I had some freedom to like add things if I wanted to, or adjust things here and there. Fight stuff is always fun for me. I'll tell you this brief story. It was when Ichigo, is it the advisors? I guess he goes in there and then, so you finally decided to join us. And he says, no way, right? It's like 2 flaps, and the Japanese was like, no way. And that's what was in the script. And I was like, just feels weird. Like I don't feel like I can do this. No way. It just was weird, you know. And so instead, I just said, "Bite me." And Wendy Lee was directing at the time, and she was like, "Yeah, okay." And, left it in there, but yeah, it's kind of fun. It's fun, you know. At that point, it's like I was so much of the character that it was like, you know, they let me do my thing. So. Yes.
What was the most emotional scene for you playing as Yukio Okuma?
Yukio?
Yukio.
Most emotional?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Gosh. It's hard for me to think back into the first series because it feels like it was so long ago. Or the movie. I remember there were moments that I remember feeling certain moments that I enjoyed, but there was definitely some stuff in the second series or second season of it. But I can't remember specific moments. I just remember I get into the character, and so I don't recall a specific moment though. I really don't. I just remember there's just so much for that character. I'll just say this. There are certain characters where I feel like as soon as I go in there, I'm plugged in. I am that character at that moment. Some characters kind of have a reward get you with because it's like, oh, this is weird, or something bizarre. But that's one of the ones where I feel like I can be that character instantly within whatever's happening. Ichigo's another one. Lelouch actually in the beginning took me a little bit of time, but then eventually, like I was able to lock into that character as well. And there are certain moments where, you know, at the end of the first season, the end of the second season that I was just like, hang on a second, I need to get over this feeling right now before I can move on to something else. But yeah, so, but I can't really think of a specific moment. Yes. If they want me. Yeah, Jason's pretty locked in though, you know, he was the leader, you know, of the Power Rangers. I was, you know, I call myself a background ranger, you know, because, I mean, it's true. You go back and watch the series, you know, and it's mostly Tommy and Kimberly, maybe Billy, and then, you know, I'm standing in the back, like this. Right. So, I didn't do a whole lot. I mean, there were moments that I had, but you know, not quite that many. But yeah, if they wanted me to come back, I'd probably come back. I would like it to be something cool. I don't want to show up and just be like unconscious. It's unconscious. We gotta help him. Yes.
I was wondering what your favorite experience
From what?
Trigun.
Trigun, favorite experience from Trigun? It's the first anime that I worked on, so that alone just made it like one of my favorite experiences. It's like I'd never done any real dubbing other than, you know, Power Rangers, but it was Helmet Head, so it's easier. Occasionally we had to match our own flaps, but that's not that hard. And Helmet Head stuff is, you know, right, okay. And so it's really easy, there's no lip flap. So Trigun was tricky, you know, but it's just such a different character from, you know, when I played in Power Rangers, you know, where I didn't really do a whole lot, and then, you know, like this wild, goofy character. The whole Love and Peace thing is funny. Anything with donuts, there's like a lot of little moments, you know, or him having the headphones on, dancing his way into the thing, whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of fun moments in that, for sure. Let's see, who else? Between me and Jason David Frank, he's got probably 100 pounds on me. So that's not, you know, that'd be not a wise choice on my part. Yes?
You played a lot of characters who have become very large meme piles on the internet. Do you have any favorite memes with characters who voice certain memes?
Characters that have voiced? No, I can't think of any. I don't recall any at the moment, actually. I tried to post a few things. I was talking about the whole background ranger thing, but I posted one not too long ago. But it was, I should repost it when Valentine's Day comes around, but it was like Tommy and Kimberly, and Tommy's got these like flowers, and he's like flirting with her and hitting him, and then I am literally in the background like this. Like, I don't know if I was just done with the scene, didn't know I was on camera, but there was like, oh, I posted it on my Instagram if you want to go check it out. It's a few weeks back, but good times. I can zoom in.
It's like unmoving shit.
Yes, you have a question? All right. How do I do my stunts? Well, I studied martial arts for a very long time. If I told you how long, you would not believe me. But I've been studying martial arts for a very long time. I'm still studying martial arts, various different styles. My first style was Shaolin Kung Fu. And so doing the stunts, it just depended on what it was. Back in the day, the Power Rangers, when we joined Power Rangers, you had to either be a martial artist or a gymnast or a dancer. And so a couple of us were martial artists, some of them were gymnasts, and there were a couple of dancers too. And so being able to move and things like that was helpful. So mostly because of martial arts, that's how I was able to do it. All right, yes?
What was it like working with all the former Rangers on that live action film you guys are doing?
The Order?
Yes.
The Order was kind of, okay, so you can check it out. I think it's on YouTube. You can find the trailer still on YouTube, I believe. The Order movie. There's another movie called The Order, so you might have to click around a little bit and digging, but it's like 5 trailers. Yeah. But anyways, it was like 20 different Power Rangers. It was basically Power Rangers Civil War, you know? But we weren't like superheroes. Instead, we were like assassins, you know? Yeah, so we shot like, basically I helped co-produce with Karen Ashley, I helped co-produce the teasers, the trailers that we shot. But that's all the involvement I had. In fact, the part that I played in it was actually Jason Frank's, was originally intended to be Jason Frank's role, but he wasn't able to do it, and so I stepped in and just kind of filled out that spot. But yeah, I think, but they've continued on now. They've got graphic novels for, I guess, telling the story before the backstory before doing the movie. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun to work with everyone and kind of see everyone do their thing. For some people, it's been a long time, so it was kind of cool to do. Yes?
Have you seen the end of the Bleach manga? And if so, what did you think of the end of Ichiro and Morihime having a son?
I don't mind that they had a son. I kind of feel like it's a lot like Naruto's. And so, you know, I don't know, like, I didn't really read any of the ending of Naruto, I just like heard about it, and then obviously I know about it because I see like a Boruto show going on, like, what is that? Naruto's son, So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think it's alright. I think it could have been cooler. Well, she is. She's an old dead chick wearing some like skin body. It's not even hers. It's gross if you think about it. Yes. Well, how did it work out? I know that, okay, so it was like, there were auditions, I did audition, and I remember, that's what my drummer at the time was, I mean, he watched anime all the time. And it's kind of funny because like he would watch an anime, and then whenever I'd show up, we were about to have rehearsal, he'd say, hey, come check out this anime. And And then you show me, and it's like Wolf's Rain. He's like, man, you gotta try to get this part. And I was like, oh, I just got cast in that. That's how it worked, like all the time. And Bleach was another one because he was watching this show called Bleach, so I would see it every once in a while, like before rehearsal, and he's watching it or whatever, and he's talking about it. He's like, man, it's so cool. And he's, you gotta get it. And I was like, I just auditioned for that, and then ended up booking it or whatever. Yeah, it was cool. So I was kind of familiar with the character, and I knew it was a popular series, and I was pretty excited about it. But the audition process was like this. I went in, I auditioned for the role. Actually, I auditioned for Ichigo, I auditioned for Uryu, and Kon. There's a couple other characters I auditioned for. It's like 5 or 6 different characters I auditioned for. And then with Ichigo, there's like certain call-outs, like there's Bankais and there's a Tensho that had to be called out. And I remember when I was auditioning for Ichigo that I was like, man, I gotta do my best for this guy right here, you know. And I remember being told to make him nicer during the audition. And I was like, that's weird, because that's not what he feels like to me, you know. And because he felt more kind of raw, a little bit like a street-wise kid, you know, and they wanted to make him nicer, you know. They said, play him a little nicer, you know, because we're not really sure if the American audience will accept him if he's kind of, you know, a punk or whatever. And I was like, it doesn't feel right to me, because one of the scenes I was doing, and he's kicking these dudes around. And I'm like, no, it's supposed to sound nice doing that. So it was really weird. And so I played it nice, you know, and I was like, this is off to me. But then there was the Bankais, get some tensions and call-outs I had to do. And so for those, it was just like, whatever, just do whatever you do. And so I made those sound the way I wanted them to sound. And I got called back for a second audition on that character only because of the Bankais and stuff, the call-outs. And then I was told, all right, don't make them as nice. Kind of make them a little more rough, kind of like what you were thinking of doing. And then we'll kind of go from there, or find it somewhere in between. And so I did that and ended up booking the role. But yeah, it was super fun. And we've gone through different directors throughout, you know, the process. But one of the things is like, I had sat down and I watched 60 episodes. You know, that first arc, I was watching and I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? I stayed up all night watching the whole thing to find out if he was gonna save Rukia. I was like, what's going on? You know, it took me forever. I did nothing else but that. And then I got to the end of it, so I knew the series from that 60 episodes. I knew my character, exactly what was happening. And so I would go in to work on it, and I knew the story a lot better than the director. So it was like, they were telling me, this is what's happening. I'm like, that's not really what's happening. This is what's happening. And then, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then, and there were certain things that were said in the Japanese, but the translation was mistranslated into English. And I was like, that's actually not what it's saying. This is what it should be saying. Oh, okay. So there's a lot of that kind of going on in the beginning because, you know, it's still earlier in the whole dubbing stuff, but you know, we corrected a lot of things. I'm not saying that I say it. I'm just saying that they did give a lot of freedom in the beginning or two to be able to do that, which I was surprised. Yes.
Who's your favorite role to play as, and if so, what is your favorite quote from that character?
Who's my favorite role to play as?
And what is
favorite look? Oh, quote.
No. Who's your favorite character to play as, and if so, what is your favorite quote from that character?
That I have a lot. Like I don't have like one favorite though. That's the problem. I've got like a handful of them, and I don't want to like shout out all of their things every time. Well, I was talking about Ichigo. He's one of my favorites. So how about a Bankai? Will that work for you? Hope I don't spit my gum out. Yes.
Have you seen the most recent Power Ranger movie? If you have, what are your thoughts?
I did see it. okay. Most of it was cool. I liked most of it. There are certain things like when I watched it, I kept thinking back to our series and what we did. And my kids can watch my show. And this one, I was like, I don't want them to watch it just yet, you know, because they're saying some things that I felt like they really leaned into the kids with attitude kind of thing, you know. It was, you know, there's not a lot of cursing, but there was some cursing in it, you know. I'm like, no, I don't want my kids saying these things to be yet. Other things were like the suits. I couldn't get used to them because I couldn't really tell the difference really from the helmets. It wasn't very clear. This was a Mastodon. This was, you know, whatever. So, it's, you know, I liked our suits from the movie better. Even the like the Zords to me were weird. Six-legged Mastodon? What? I don't even understand that. Like, what? No, it's so alien, and it's not a Mastodon. So there are things like that. Goldar, I was like, what? No. The putties, I liked our putties, even though they were cheesy. Our show was cheesy. Theirs was much more of a modern take on it, more of a, you know, going that Marvel route of things. And I thought they did a good job of that. But it was different. It wasn't the same as ours, but. And I'm not saying ours was better, because ours was definitely a lot cheesier. But, you know, there's some things that were missing for me. There were definitely, I was expecting a lot more martial arts, a lot more action. It took a long time for them to get into that stuff. Yes?
What do you think of Alaska so far?
So far, I've only seen from here to the hotel.
Oh, dang.
So it looks a lot like other places I've been to, but it's been cloudy as well. So I can tell there's mountains.
Yes, there are.
Somewhere beyond those clouds.
Oh, there is.
But no, I know it's beautiful here. I mean, just from the Discovery Channel. But that's going to unfortunately probably be my experience. I'm going to try to get out tomorrow and is there?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't have a car with me, so it'll be a lot more than 2 hours for me. Yeah, I would like to actually. I'm hoping to get out a little bit tomorrow night, kind of check it out. But because I hear there's a nightlife here, and so I'm gonna see what that's all about. Yes. What was I, the voice of in Saints Row? I don't remember. I think I was a gangster. I think I was like a Hispanic gangster.
Okay.
I honestly think that's what it was. It was a while ago, but I think I was like a gang member. Yes? Well, if I know what the series is, like if they tell me what it is, then I'll look it up myself and I'll try to do some research on my own. And especially if it's like an anime, because then I might be able to find an episode or something and find my character and kind of see what was done before, get some kind of information that way. I do definitely look things up. Sometimes it's like an original project and then you only find like an image of the character. Like maybe I've not sent a picture of the character, but if I can find one online, then that gives me a little more information. So I try to do a lot of research before going into it, and then as soon as I get there, I ask a ton of questions. The director, the producer, the writer, whoever's in there, I just ask questions because I want to know what they're expecting from me as well. That way, you know, where am I coming from? You know, what is this scene that's happening? Do I know these characters? What is my relationship to these characters? Do I like this person in front of me? You know, and even though I'm saying that I like this person, am I really thinking something else? You know, I've got to think of all those things in a short amount of time. So I ask as many questions as I can to kind of give me that information. If it's an anime, a lot of times we'll get to watch it beforehand. Sometimes we don't, but a lot of times we do get to watch it beforehand. And then you don't get the script ahead of time in most cases. Because they don't want that information to get out, you know, and so they don't want you to like, you know. Oh yeah, we don't have subtitles. We have a script when we show up, and you know, on the day. So you have to be really good at cold reading. You know, like you get it right there and you go, Dasani, you know, whatever. So it's like you just have to know it, and then if it's animated, you've got to match flats as well. So you've got to watch it and time out how you say it so it fits. You know, and that way you know if you need to add a pause, you need to add another word, you need to speed it up, whatever. It takes a lot. It's a lot of work, but you know, but it's fun, you know. And again, some characters you could just dial in for whatever reason. You know, I've got enough baggage that I can, you know, find a place to relate to something. You know, and so for me, it really is just trying to find a way for me to be that character, for me to believe that I'm that character and make it believable. You know, and I've heard it many times, but for me, if like I've seen a lot of fan dubs and stuff, and I'll just tell a quick story. Eudeka 7. This was back when I was working on Auditioning 7, and we had already, a ton of it was out, and I was at a con, and somebody's like, oh, my friend is doing this band of Auditioning that's playing Renton, and it sounds just like you. And I was like, oh, okay, I should check it out. And somebody sounds just like me, they're going to potentially get my job. And I go and I start watching it, and it sounds like he's in his bedroom closet, and he doesn't want to wake his mom in the next room. And so everything is played kind of down a notch, you know, even the screams are like, ah, because he doesn't want to scream so loud, you know, and those things for me are super important, you know. I know some people, there are techniques and stuff like that, but like for me, if you watch any of Bleach, I'm screaming, you know, or Devil May Cry, I'm screaming, I'm like letting it all out there, you know, because I think you're gonna notice. When you're listening, you're gonna know if I'm holding back, you know, or not. Here's another thing, in Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans, I was playing Orga, so when I started doing research on Orga, and I heard the original Japanese, I'm like, oh, that's not the character I would typically be cast as, because our tones are very different, you know? And I was like, what am I gonna do? And so, what I did from home to the job was I would scream out every street sign. I just screamed at the top of my lungs. And so when I was in to work, I was kind of down a register, not a full register, but I was lower and raspy and just kind of, I sounded like I had been in battle. And I'm a little exhausted because I wanted, and you probably, half the time you probably can't even tell. But for me, it's that having that feeling, and some of you will. Some of you will pick up on it and be like, okay, yeah, this guy's been some places, you know? So, that's a dumb thing to do, though. I'm just going to tell you. You know, there are probably wiser techniques, but for me, I wanted to feel that as well. Yes. Most difficult thing about recording Trigun, I think for me it was my first time to dub. I don't remember too many very difficult things. I think it was different enough, and I was excited enough to be playing something like that. That everything was just fun. I think the hardest thing was saying his name. And there's a moment where he introduces himself to Wolfwood. And, is it Wolfwood? Yeah, it's to Wolfwood. And it's like, it was like a paragraph for his name, and I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, and I was like, what is this? And then, like, you know, how am I, and then I had to match flats at the same time. You know, so it took a few takes for me to get that down. Yeah, I guess that would be the hardest part, I think. Yes.
I know you played Jonathan Joestar and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I want to know how did you get into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and if you followed it?
At all. I received an audition that did not have the name, I don't think. I think it had other names, or it might have just said, I can't remember actually. But it got to me, it was an audition, and it had a picture of Jonathan Joestar. And when I saw the picture, I was like, hey, is this the North Star? I was like, dude, this is awesome, all right. And so I was like excited to play, but then it was like, it said slight British accent. it's like a British accent. What? All right, you know. And so yeah, so I auditioned for it. Didn't know anything about it, and then once I got it, then I was given more information about it, and I started looking it up. But yeah, it's very bizarre adventure.
Yes,
for sure.
it is.
There was a moment where I'm fighting a hen. There's another moment. Actually, I'm fighting Dio, and I throw this rose at him, right, in the fight, and then he goes, for a minute, and I'm like, I was the director. I was like, it was poison? Was there poison on the rose? No. I was like, oh, okay, just the rose. But yeah. All right. Okay, so there's things like that. But man, that show was wild. It was fun. Oh, I know that for sure. It was pretty bizarre. It was fun though. Yes? As JoJo? I can't think of anything. How about this? I did this off.
Well, yeah.
Oh. Yes.
What's your favorite Digimon series and why is it
Zelda was definitely awesome. You know, that was, what was it? Was that Nintendo 64? Is that what it was on originally? Oh, it was NES, that's right, it was NES. That was back when I played games, you know. But it was great. I always remember thinking like, man, I want to voice this character. Never got to do that. What did it make me think of? Oh, it made me think of like the last time I really was like played a game. The last game that I actually spent a lot of time on was I can't think of it. Kingdom Hearts. It's Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, the first one. I spent so much time on it. And I hadn't played video games like a whole lot. I played here and there, or played here and there. And then this one, I got it, you know, I think it was maybe for Christmas or something. And I was just playing it forever. And I was at this moment where I was like fighting the boss. So I was really close to the end, I could tell. But then I didn't realize that you had to like increase your life bar or whatever. And I was like, why am I constantly losing? And then I was like, oh, I have to go back to this thing and then do that and increase it. And I got so frustrated. I spent so much time on it. But anyways, I'm playing this for like weeks and weeks, and then I'm like sitting in the house, like not doing anything like that. I would just go there and do that. And then there's one moment where I look down and I got my Cheetos spread across my chest. And I'm like, what am I doing? I need to go outside. So I go outside, there's sun. And yeah, so I had to like stop because it was ruining my life. Yes? How did it feel to replace him? It felt great. It's so funny, you get asked that so often, but it wasn't something that I thought about, you know? I knew that, I just thought we were coming in to be Rangers. I didn't know we were replacing anybody or anything. It just said when I was studying Kung Fu and my instructor saw on the paper that they're looking for new Rangers, and he came up to me and was like, hey, you should go give it a shot. And I went to an audition, and then when they flew us out to California to do the callback auditions, there was, that's when I noticed, oh, we're black, red, and yellow. But I didn't know, again, that we're replacing anyone. I didn't know anything about the story. So it wasn't until I was on the show that it was like, I'm wearing somebody else's clothes right now because it's got his name all over it. And these kids are thinking that I'm Zach after we rap, and there's like a bunch of kids outside. They're like, hey, Zach. I'm like, no, I play Adam, but okay. So it wasn't something I thought about, you know. It was obviously, just what it was. 1 minute left? One more question. Okay. So I've got one question left. Should I just tell you guys a story?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. All right. I'll try to make it quick. Is that all right? Yeah. All right. It's going to take an hour to tell the story. All right. So, I could probably tell the story tomorrow, but I might as well tell you right now. All right. So, this is the quarter story. And if you haven't heard my quarter story, it's an old story. This was from a while ago, back in the days when I was working on Bleach. But, so anyways, whenever I go to work, I have to take the freeway to go to work. I live in California, I have to take the freeway to get back home, and there's an off-ramp that I have to take, and there's like a signal light there. And I'd have to make a left to go under this overpass in the freeway. And always on that corner where that light is, there's always like some homeless guy standing on the corner. Not the same homeless guy, but just various homeless guys standing on the corner, whatever, give a day. And, you know, when I was in my car, I've never really given money while in my car because it felt weird, like it was strapped down. I don't know whether they tried to rob me or whatever, so I never did it. This one day I exit the freeway, and there's like 4 or 5 cars in front of me. So from here to a little bit beyond this room, the back of the room, 4 or 5 cars in front of me, it's a red light, and behind me pulls up this monster truck. And this person, I can't see who's in it because it's got a tinted window, but I can feel the vibration of the engine because they're revving it. You know, and it's like shaking my car, and I start to freak out. And in my head, I see monster madness, and the light turns green. He runs us all over. So I got that image playing on in my head, and I'm thinking, dude, we better go because this person is anxious, you know. And I have this Ziploc bag full of carrots that I had left over from lunch. I was scarfing down like my last supper. And I looked over, you know, and there wasn't a homeless guy there, there was a homeless woman. And it was the first time I'd seen a homeless woman, and my heart just went out to her. You know, I started thinking, what if that's my mom? You know, I mean, I felt bad, like I felt like I should do something. And so I was like, all right, you know what? In LA, I don't know about here, but in LA you have to pay for parking everywhere. And so my cup holders were full of quarters. And I thought, I just finished all these carrots, I got an empty Ziploc bag. What if I take all these quarters and put them in a Ziploc bag and give it to them? And I'd never done this before. And again, I was like a good distance away from her. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I scoop up all these quarters, I put it in a Ziploc bag, and I'm like, dude, it's like 3 pounds worth of quarters. I'm gonna go change her life. And I roll down my window and I hold my hand out like this. And I look over to her, and again, 4 or 5 cars away from me, she sees me, she has a sign, and she goes, and I'm in my car 4 or 5 cars away going like, wait, am I supposed to get out? I'm thinking like, I thought you're gonna come over here? You're not coming over here? And I'm like trying to like sign to her like, I don't know how to do this. It's not, I can't go that far, I don't know what to do. And the light turns green. And these cars in front of me, they just take off, you know, like fast. Like they must have felt the boom behind me. And so I instinctively start going. And so now I look down, I'm like, wait, now I'm going 20 miles an hour with a 3-pound bag of quarters and a monster truck on my tail. I can't stop now. And I'm like, I don't know how this exchange is going to happen. I can just throw it in her gut like a football player. I'm doing it! You know? What if she hangs onto it too long and I pull her out of my car and I kill her? What if I hang onto it too long and I fly out and I die? I'm like starting to freak out. Then I get this moment of clarity, this epiphany. I'm like, Johnny, you're a martial artist. Just focus. You're also Asian. Do the math. 20 miles an hour, 3-pound bag of quarters. All you have to do is go, and watch it gracefully land in her hand. So there I am, 20 miles an hour, 3-pound bag of quarters, feeling pretty confident. And I go, now, and I release. And if you've ever been in an accident, time slows down. It really does. And I say this all the time, but I think like God was upstairs like, whoo! Jesus, Moses, bring some nachos and popcorn. Oh yeah, we're recording it. We'll play it back when he's dead. So there I am. I release this 3-pound bag of quarters, and time slows down as I watch this 3-pound bag of quarters fly 20 miles an hour. 3 pounds worth of quarters, 20 miles an hour, smacks her in the face. The bag rips open, quarters fall, glistening in the sunlight, and all I can do is this. No! She goes down, quarters go flying everywhere. And I'm going so fast that I actually screech around the corner. Like, there's nowhere for me to turn around. I just continue under the overpass, going home, feeling dirty. So, there's a lesson to be learned. Don't give homeless people money while driving your car. It's a true story. So, here's another part of this story that I always tell because it boggles my mind. Before that day, there's always some homeless guy standing off the corner. That was the first time that there's a homeless woman. After that day, no homeless people on the corner. It confuses me. I think, well, what happened? Did they tell the story about someone? Did she die? And I think like there's a bridge somewhere, right? And there's like this homeless guy by a fire, and there's another guy who walks up to him, hey Bob. Hey Ted. Hey, where's Sally? You didn't hear? She's dead. The quarterman got her. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you come by, say hi at the tables or whatever it's and let me know some cool places to go eat.